Welcome to So Much Fun. I'm Colleen Murphy and I teach sewing. Today I thought we would do something different, something special for our dads. And that is taking one of his shirts and making it into a dress. And this, of course, could only be for, let's say, a toddler. Can't make an adult dress, but you certainly can make a child's dress from a man's shirt. And I have done this, and the dads feel so proud because they know that connection between them and their daughter. So let's get started. Here are at least 4 patterns that would work for making a child's dress from a man's shirt. Now you're going to need at least a large or even extra large. Actually, the larger the shirt, the better, and the larger the dress size you can use. But in looking at these 4 patterns, one of them is definitely a vintage pattern, but it would still work. You want something very simple. You don't want a lot of detail with this. We're going to take a different shirt and use it to show how you place your pattern onto the shirt and to determine whether or not it will work. So these are just a few ideas, and we're going to actually use the vintage pattern, and then I've already made a couple of dresses from this particular pattern. So let's move on. All right, this is the first dress that I made a few years ago, and this is the pattern. It's a Butterick 4176. I did do a little bit of modifying. The pleats, there are 6 pleats on the original pattern, and I took it down to 3 because actually I made it a little bit smaller than the smallest size that the pattern has, which is size 2. Making these dresses gives you an opportunity to be really creative and fun. I put this applique on there. You can come up with all sorts of ideas with it, whether you do pockets, or if you want to applique a flower like I've done, or maybe a name, put his name on it. Any kind of embellishment is fun to do on these dresses, and of course you're doing it on the front of the dress. On the back of the dress, you're going to see it's in reverse. So the front of the man's shirt is the back of the girl's dress. The back of the man's shirt is the front of the girl's dress. Here's another dress using the same pattern. It's a larger size. This is a size 3. And because of the nature of the fabric being the striped as it is, I got the idea, why not make it a patriotic dress? So I have appliqued stars, put the rickrack on, and I don't have it finished. And if I have time, I'm going to show you about how you do put a sleeve on the dress. And then the last thing we'll do is add the rickrack around the neck. But you really have to go by the size of the shirt to know what you're going to do. And here's the back of the dress. So I don't have to worry about a zipper or any kind of opening. I've already got my buttons and buttonholes right here, so it makes it super easy to do. It's a lot of fun. So the trick is knowing how to put that pattern onto the shirt. So let's do that now. All right, for this dress, I'm going to use, this is a vintage pattern. I think this thing goes back to the 50s. And it's very, very simple, front and back, and it doesn't have any sleeves in it. And when you're using a short sleeve shirt, it needs to be for sleeveless dresses. When you're making a dress with a sleeve, you're going to have a long sleeve shirt. Now I'm going to take my back pattern piece, and what I've done is first I just kind of checked it out to see whether or not I could get it on there. But you actually want to take the original pattern piece and draw a new one. All right, that you want to get the entire pattern, the right and the left part of it. It's much easier if you do that. The top of the dress should be about 1 inch above the top button. Now, I'm not considering the one on the collar. I'm talking about the first button after the collar, and you would come up 1 inch from there. That's the placement. And your center line would be right down the middle of where your buttons are. Now you notice that's hanging over to the side a little bit. And that's all right. All right? It's just fine if it does. You can take that around, and we'll wait until we check out the other side of the shirt before we do any cutting. But first thing you want to do is to see that you do have enough fabric, and you are going to think about it differently than when you're just using yardage of fabric. All right, so this is going to be the back of the dress, which is the front of the shirt. Notice too, you have a pocket here. Now you have to think about that as well. Do you want to keep that pocket, or do you want to remove it? Most of the time I remove it, but you know, it's up to you. This is your design, so that's what makes it so much fun. So let's take this off and turn the shirt over to the back, and we're going to look at what we can do with the front. And what I found with this is I'm going to have to turn it upside down, meaning this. I'm going to turn it so that the front is up here, because I want to get this a little bit of extra. And it's all right for it to be that way, because remember, the back is going to extend some over to the front side. So for that reason, we'll need to turn the front dress pattern upside down. Now, this is a plaid, and I can't say that you're going to be able to match your plaids. You just want to be able to get your pattern pieces aligned where you know you're going to be able to get the entire piece cut. With this particular project, we're going to cut the back first, because it's important that we have that top button, the top edge of the pattern, 1 inch above the top button. And sometimes, you know, you're able to go ahead and cut the side seams, but with this situation, I'm not. So I'm going to put something inside, because I want to pin, and I don't want to pin the front and the back of the shirt together. So if I slide something in between, that's going to make it easier as far as the pinning. There are a lot of ways that you can do this. You can use poster board if you want to, some cardboard. I just happen to have a pressing sheet that I would slide inside. And this is something I use on a sewing machine that is thin, and I can just put that in there. It's just something where it's not bulky, it's very flat, but it allows you then to be able to pin the pattern to the shirt. You start out by aligning that center line with your buttons. You can kind of feel that. Now this button is right there at the bottom edge, and we'll just remove it. We're not going to keep it. That'll be turned under for our hem, so that'll be just fine. So just get some pins started. We're not doing the grain line, remember. This is our, you want to think of it, this is the grain line right here, this center line. So I'm just going to reach inside. I'm not pinning like I normally do. I just want to make sure I don't pin it to the front of what's going to be the front of the dress. So we're just going to go around and pin enough that we'll be able to cut it. Again, this is a large size shirt. If you have an extra large or an extra extra large, you won't have to go through what I'm going to do right now as far as the side seams. You could begin by cutting your side seams, because there would be enough width in the shirt that it would not, the pattern would not wrap around to the other side. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom. I opened up the shirt, and I'm just going to cut right here beside the pattern, and then we're going to go over to the edge, and we're going to be having to move the shirt so that we'll be in that side seam, and that is all right. This is a shirt, so it's not like cutting yardage, so don't worry about it. We're just going to go right over there which is taking us to the back of the shirt. And then we'll move the fabric. It's best that you have a lot of pins because you really aren't able to get it perfectly flat like you can with when you're using yardage. There, I've got that flat. I'm going to add another pin in here. Keep that in place. Again, you want to make sure you're only cutting the front of the shirt at this point. You don't want to be cutting through both layers, only one layer. And it is awkward. In this situation, it is awkward. If I had a larger shirt, I would have just cut through the side seams, and then the fabric would be flat, and I wouldn't have to do all this rearranging of the fabric. We're just going to keep cutting this back piece, and then we'll take the other pattern piece and lay it out. Well, you know, every man's shirt has a front pocket, and here it is. And I did not remove it, and I had to cut off just a little bit on the corner, and I think that's fine. This is a sleeveless dress, so it's going to have binding around here, and you're just losing a little bit of the pocket. But I think it's cute to have the pocket on the back of the dress. Sometimes I remove the pocket and sometimes I don't, and it's really up to you as to what you want to do. Now, this is a plaid, and if it's possible to match up those plaids, that's great, and I think we can. So what I've done is I've taken that piece from the back of the shirt and put it on top. Actually, it's the back now of the shirt, but the front of the dress. And look to see if I couldn't align the plaid for the front and the back, that it'll be the same, which is, in this situation, it worked. It doesn't always work, but it does, so let's take advantage of that. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to place the front pattern on top and just pin at one point before, it actually needs to be probably right there, and because that's the center of that plaid. And I'm just going to put this, take the back piece, move it out of the way enough that I can place a pin there and keep that in place. Then after that, I'm just going to slide the other piece out of the way. Why isn't it going? There's a reason for it. Oh, there it goes. Now then. So we've got that in place, and now we'll be able to cut this out without really having those side seams in there, because we are working upside down with the shirt. I'm going to go ahead and pin and cut this out, and I'm putting the center line on the center of the plaid stripe, and I'll probably check just one more time that I've got it placed so that the side seams will match up with the plaid design. Now that you have the front pattern piece cut out, this is your opportunity to do your embellishments, and I consider pockets to be an embellishment. You want to do it while the fabric is flat, and here again are the pattern pieces for that. And it's very optional. You don't have to do it. It's entirely up to you, but this is your time if you want to put any kind of an applique design on the front, you can do that. This is the fun part, I think, of making the dress, is your idea as far as how you want to embellish the front of the dress. Now this pattern calls for a collar, and this is a good project for learning how to apply a collar, but you don't have to. If you want, you could just put binding around the neckline rather than using a collar. And of course it's sleeveless, so that would require binding as well. You can either make your binding out of this fabric, or you can use bias tape. You've got to have something that will make a curve, so it has to be cut on the bias. And I have another dress that I've already made and have used the same fabric for the neckline right up here at the top. And as you can tell, it's cut on the bias. So here is some of the leftover. I cut a 2-inch width at a 45-degree angle. And what you want to do is you want to sew the right side of the fabric to the wrong side or the inside of the dress. And that way you can, I'll take these pins out so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm sewing it first to the inside of the dress, single width, and then I can fold it up and bring it over to the outside or the right side of the dress. You can just do a straight stitch all the way around. I probably would use a edge foot to do that because you want it very, very close to the edge. For this dress, I want to do something extra by putting in the rickrack. When I sew it, I'll add that rickrack at the same time. I'll just slide it in here, take some of these pins out, and I'm just going to move that rickrack right in there like that, and that way you can see it kind of goes along with the hem of the dress. There's so many possibilities as to what you can do with the dress. This is your time to be a designer. Now, I've only put in one sleeve with the possibility of showing you how you can put in a sleeve. This is a good way to learn techniques with a child's dress. You're not using as much fabric, but you're going through the same process as you would if you were making an adult dress when it comes to your binding and your sleeve, your embellishments. It's all the same. It's just on a smaller scale. As I said, this is a great opportunity to learn how to put in a sleeve. And I want you to check my next video because I'm going to do that. There's one other point I want to make. With the fabric used in a man's shirt, you really can't tell the difference between the front and the back. So when you're cutting out your pieces, definitely put a piece of painter's tape on what you're going to consider to be the back side of the fabric or the pattern piece. In this situation, knowing that the fabric looks the same on both sides, it's really important to use that tape because you don't want to wind up with 2 right sleeves or 2 left sleeves. You want to have a right and a left. This isn't a child's dress, as you can tell, but it's another fun way that you can use men's shirts. I have 4 of them that I bought from Goodwill and took them apart. And if you notice, different sleeves. Look in the back, I have my yoke. In order to get fullness on the side, I put an inverted pleat. And it was fun to do because, see, I have the buttonholes all matched up on the 2 shirts. I didn't have to do any new collar. I did have to open up the sleeves and take out basically about 4 inches to make it be more suitable for a woman rather than a man. Lots of fun. You can do so much with men's shirts. Just go in the closet and pick out some and take them apart and see what you come up with. I hope this video has been helpful for you and has given you some ideas as to what you can do with a man's shirt. Please like and subscribe and have so much fun.